Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Boom, there you are. Great. What's
Good.
up?
That's what we want.
I think we got everybody here.
Yeah,
I
sorry
think
guys. We're
we're
gonna
ready to
we're
start.
totally gonna get started.
In some ways you could call us newbies to this streaming thing, and it's awesome, it's also a lot of technical stuff to figure out. And despite the fact that I consider myself kind of technically knowledgeable, it's still difficult. So,
Yeah.
good. They see us now. Do you hear us now? Do you guys hear us?
Both of
You
us,
ready for some craziness?
relatively speaking.
We can see and hear you. Wonderful. Audio is good. Beautiful. Thank you for the help. So, welcome to, I don't know what number stream this is. This is like six, maybe five or six
What?
total.
This is
Well,
the
I
fourth
think
one.
with you, I've done four, right? Or I've done three with you.
Yeah, yeah. We've done two music ones, and there was an art one, and then this is the fourth one.
See, this is a good thing I'm not in charge of the accounting because it would be a problem. It would be overinflated budgets. But yes, so number four, that's pretty good. We've only done this four times. It's hard to believe that.
I feel good
Um,
about it.
Welcome everybody. So if you don't know what is going on here, which you probably do, but if you don't, Julia is a game designer designing a game called The Crimson Diamond, which is slated for release, and the release date is when it's ready,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to be at some point soon, hopefully. And it is a based off of the art style of a 1989 EGA text parser game, and I would say what's the word I'm looking for? It affectionately draws on influences from a game called The Colonel's Bequest, which I finally got here on my shelf. I don't know if you can see it,
Woohoo.
but it's back there. I finally got it on my shelf, and it's a really awesome game. Really great music by a composer named Ken Allen. It was released in 1989 by a company called Sierra. So that's the heavy influence that the art for sure is sharing. And my job and my role in this game is all either music or audio sound effects. And our plan and um, our goal for today is to show you guys how we implement, well, not so much implement, but at least how we find some of the sound effects, and only using one box, which is this guy right here, the Roland MT32 from 1987. This is the original version. There are two versions of it. Without getting too nerdy, the second version is quote unquote better, but it doesn't work as well with some games. So the first version is more compatible, I think. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but what's
Why
up,
is it? Why
guys?
is it better?
So the second version corrected some of the like software problems or hardware problems that were present in the stuff that was in there. This is like before the era that firmware upgrades were really common and easy. So now you update your phone and it updates the software and the firmware. Now that didn't happen back in the 80s really.
Okay.
Some software or some hardware did have that, but not much, and certainly not this. This is a in 1987 that was about 700 US dollars, which is a ridiculously high amount of money for the time. And now they're close to 200 bucks US dollars now, and that's kind of ridiculous given the fact that it's a what? It's a 30-year-old box.
Oh
So,
boy. Hi
but
Roberta. Hi Fluffy Dachshund. Fluffy Dachshund wants to know what software are you using to trigger the MT?
yes, so right now it's actually not software that's triggering. It's the keyboard has direct MIDI in, although I think I have it routed through Pro Tools at the moment. That's how I'm working on the music, and I can show a little bit of that. And we've also kind of shown some of that in the past, but we'll show more of that in the future. But before we get too far into it, actually wanted to show you guys some cool examples of different kinds of synthesis. But even before that, I wanted to ask everybody a question. What are you guys doing about your hair during this time? It's like a really important thing to me. We know Julia's just growing, so
Yep.
she'll probably have Rapunzel hair by the end of this. Me,
Yep.
I think I'm going to do the same thing. I don't plan to cut my hair until I set foot in a barbershop when this is all over. And for now, Deluxe Tux is on full mountain, man. That's a good one. Let it go. See, somebody knows.
Hey, Frozo Grabbins and Bill Kuhn. This is not live streaming on YouTube. We've decided that's already complicated enough for us to stream to one platform. So it's live on Twitch, and later in a couple days I'll put it up on YouTube, the full thing. So if anyone has to duck out early or can't make it at all, then it'll be able to be viewed at a later date.
Yes. And you know, Twitch is really a better platform for streaming because it gives you some it doesn't have a lot of discoverability, they call it, but it's at least gives you an option to be able to search for it, whereas YouTube you can't really search by live stream very well. It's kind of more suited towards video that's already been produced. This is kind of live produced, live streamed, and the upside is you can do it on YouTube too, but we can interact with everybody that's watching right now, which is my favorite part and kind of the point of all this, right? We want to know what you guys are feeling. You hopefully want to know what we're feeling and thinking about, and so that's cool. So, all right, so I want to play some music, and I think this is probably a game that everybody is familiar with. If you're not, we'll talk about it. And let's see here. Okay, I'm going to share to. There we go. And it's very loud, sorry.
Ooh, good.
This is a game called Space Quest 3 by Sierra, and this is the introduction of the game using what they call OPL synthesis, or FM synthesis. So this is probably what most of you would have had back in 1989 if you played this game. This was like kind of like anybody who had a sound card and had better than PC speaker, which is just beeps. Anyone who had better than
Are you
this.
cutting in and out a bit?
I'm cutting in and out a bit.
Yeah.
I think it might just be to the Discord. Hopefully not on the Twitch.
Okay.
So this is probably what you would have heard. And as you can hear, it sounds okay. But let's go back. I'm going to play a different version now. Now this is another version of the same intro. Let me turn this down.
Bill Kuhn said he named that tune in one note.
I'm sure. Now this is the same game, same intro, but this is played by the Amiga computer. And this is an emulated version I did. I have an Amiga, but I don't have it set up. And I don't even know if I have the Amiga version of this game. I have a million versions of it PC. So you can hear it sounds a little better. And I'll skip through a little bit through the intro. But there's a really cool part in this particular version that's not present in any of the other versions of Space Quest 3. It's only in the Amiga version.
Oh no, this thing. Oh no.
Yeah, if Space Quest historian's around and wants to jump in, that'd be awesome, because he could probably educate most of us on this.
He'll know what me.
Yeah. I can't claim to be a proper expert on Sierra music that much, but I do really like the music, so I can claim to be an expert on the music anyway.
Eden Wraith has a legit Amiga copy of SQ3. Sweet.
Nice. Does it have the nose glasses? That's always the question. So let's see. Here we go. This is what we're waiting for right here. So you can read blah, 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 blah. And it sounds okay. You can hear that was kind of a weird little quirk of the Amiga trying to play back this music. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. There it is. One little where am I? So that was not present. Somebody said that it is present in one of the versions of the game, but that's, as far as I knew, the only version it was present in was the Amiga version. I can't believe you've been playing Space Quest for 2 whole minutes and you haven't died yet. Okay, now, finally I'm going to play the final version. The last... Whoops. Whoa, what did I do? Holy cow. Oh, goodness. Let me try that again. Let me not play everything at once. Okay, this is the last version. Now, this is a DOS version again, but using the emulator Munt, which is MT32 music. Eden Wraith says he's got the nose glasses. Wow, that's very tough to find. Now listen to this. Oh my God, it's glorious. DJ emulator. What's up, Tali?
Oh my goodness.
And it's just far better. I mean, there's, what can you say? Ah, what's up, Francisco?
Hey, hey.
So we're just playing some of the music. This is Space Quest 3. Oh, let's pause this right here, by the way. I just wanted to quickly go over this. Let's give credit where credit's due. The music, this theme song was written by this guy, Bob Siebenberg. And he was the drummer for, was it Supertramp? I believe he was the drummer
I
for
believe
Supertramp,
so.
unless I screwed that up. But interestingly enough, I did ask a couple of guys what he did on this game and how he composed this, because composing for the MT32 back in 1989, when was this, 1989? Yeah, was complex. It was not very easy to do. It's still not very easy to do, and I'm going to show you how kind of not easy it is to do. So this guy down here, Mark Siebert, also one of the more famous composers of Sierra games from back in the day, as I understand it, programmed all the sound effects and took all the MIDI information that Bob had written and input it into this game. So he may have also done the orchestrations. I'm not even too sure. What did they say?
The Lux Tuck said, Julia, are you planning on releasing like 16 versions of Crimson Diamond so hipsters can fight over which one is best in 27 years?
Definitely, definitely.
I will say there's probably not going to be an Amiga version, at least.
That's unforgivable. I quit. Sorry. Good night, guys. Thanks. Thanks for tuning
Hey,
in.
Anna. Good to see you.
No. So anyway, I wanted to give credit especially to these two guys, but Mark Siebert in particular, I actually sent him an email since the last stream, and he was gracious enough to get back to me. He made a couple of nice suggestions on the theme, so I'm really stoked about that, and awesome stoked to be in contact with Mark because he did some amazing work.
You
So
did.
how does one program for the MT32 now? Well, I'm going to show you a little bit of how that works. It's annoying. So anyway, we'll play a little bit more of this.
We could probably just play this the entire time and do nothing else, and people would be happy.
It would be a good stream.
Yep.
So anyway, you'll see through as we go through this. But see how much more atmosphere this has now? This is amazing to me. Like, that you could have had this in 1989 on your home computer if you had, you know, $700 to drop on a sound card.
If.
I didn't.
A lot of ifs.
I didn't.
A lot of ifs.
We could also talk about the artwork, but we'll save that for one of Julia's future streams. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, maybe there'll be a preview. Who knows?
And I think think about this though, the artwork and the music right now, the atmosphere is perfectly set with the MT32. To me. And there it is. You can just hear the theme. It's very triumphant because you see Roger appear. It's great. Like they did it. They did it right. You know.
Oh, this is fantastic. The little sound effects.
Roger that. Nice one, Rick. Where am I? Oh yeah, that was me.
This is good. Yours sounded better though a little.
You wouldn't think blue and red for skin or blue and purple, whatever that is, would work so well, but it does, right? Because it's showing shadows. And if you
It's
guys
magic.
watched Julia's other streams, she'll show some of that. Listen to these sound effects. Wait for it. Boom. There it is.
So good. So good.
And there we're in, and that's the intro. So that is like one of the quintessential intros for MT32 music, sound effects. I would say it's one of the better uses of, especially for early games, that's one of the better uses of the box. And it wasn't the first game that they did it with, but it was one of the earliest games. So we're going to show a little bit of how at least I can try to attempt to recreate the process. So let me call up on here.
Well, apparently, Michael Darkwolf said that there is a new fan-made game of Space Quest called Space Quest: A Son of Xenon, which I haven't heard of.
Oh, interesting. Well, and you also have Space Venture, right?
Yes, which is coming up. Yeah.
That Mark and Scott are working on.
Yes, yes.
Is there a
Hi,
release?
Aziza.
Is there a release date for that?
I don't know actually. I get the emails, but then I just I don't really pay attention to release dates because I guess for myself too, I kind of don't pay attention. And Edenwood says SQH did show how to enable Roger's voice on the PC version of SQ3, so apparently it's.
Yeah, I knew it was a thing, but I don't know that many people knew about it. I certainly didn't.
Roberta says supposedly June of this year for Space Venture.
Okay, so let's go back to here, and I'm now showing you. This is actually my Mac that I'm running DOSBox on, but I kind of gave it away a little bit. But we're going to show you now a little bit about doing sound and music on the MT32 and what I have to do. So right now, I'm on my Mac, and yes, of course, I'm wearing an old school Seahawks hat, Roberta. That's where I came from. I'm from Seattle, if anyone didn't know. And I'm a diehard Seahawks fan. So anyway, there we go. There's Windows 3.11. And just in case anybody's upset that I don't perhaps have a legit copy, I do have a legit copy on my wall. Or no, in my shelf, not this one behind me, but the other one. So yes, I actually have a legit version of this software. Now, I just went into a piece of software, if you guys remember Windows 3.1. This is a librarian software for Windows 3.1 from 1995. And that's pretty late because most of you were probably just starting to run potentially Windows 95 at that point. But I'm sure there was plenty of people still working on Windows 3.1. So anyway, this software was done by this guy, R.D. Giovanni. I don't know too much about him. He's in the Netherlands. And this software allows me to talk to the MT32. Someone emailed that. I wouldn't mind emailing that address and sending him the money that he was asking for because that would be cool. So I'll do that. I'll email him.
Satchel the Diamond Dog says that the Space Quest fan game Son of Xenon is on the Adventure Game Studio forums in the completed games tab. So it's another Adventure Game Studio game, just like the Crimson Diamond. So that's kind of a nice thing to know.
Is it a free game? Or is it?
Yeah.
It's got to be free, right? Because it's using someone else's intellectual property.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
So this software, the LA Synth Editor and Librarian 3.1 by R.D. Giovanni, was hooked. Brandon Bloom was the one who told me about this software, I think. And he said, hey, dude, use DOSBox. Run Windows 3.1. Yes, I launched this, Eden Wraith, I launched this through DOSBox. He said, run this through DOSBox, launch and install Windows 3.1. And the nice thing about DOSBox is it sends MIDI information. and it's compatible with the MT32. So it sends MT32 information. Not to get too nerdy, but general MIDI, which came a little bit later, and MT32 MIDI they're the same information in sort of, but the MT32 kind of uses its own MIDI language. Just after that, they standardized how MIDI was communicated. So all the different boxes that you would buy, if they supported general MIDI, they would all be compatible. However, the MT32 predated that, and it's just really not compatible with general MIDI. And it even defaults to MIDI channel 2 instead of MIDI channel 1 as the first channel, which is really bizarre, but that's just what it does. Again, MIDI nerd stuff. So I'm going to show you guys, there's a couple of cool things. This has database, which is a huge, huge bank of sounds, and then timbre bank, which this is actually a way to load in, to overwrite the memory of what's in the, what's in the MT32. So I'm going to open a file right now, and I think these are from Quest Studios or somewhere. These are the system exclusive MIDI messages that would have been sent to your MT32 if you played the game back in the day and you had it hooked up, or now. A lot of people have, retro machines and do it now. Or even with DOSBox, you can still do it. So if you own an MT32 or if you use the emulator software, it sends this information from whatever game you're playing. You might recognize some of these names. Does anybody know any of these games? EcoQuest. Talk nerdy to us. King's Quest 1, King's Quest 4, King's Quest 5, King's Quest 6. The Leisure Suit Larry games. What's MG? I don't know. I don't know all of them, but I know most of these. Space Quests. So let's open up Space Quest because we just did Space Quest 3. So let's open the system exclusive file and you'll see.
Oh, Mother Goose, the Dark Wolf.
Mother Goose.
Dark Wolf
Yep. Very good. Nice work. That's impressive.
Yes.
So if you look at this is Space Quest 3, right? And what we read was Bob Siebenberg was the composer, but Mark Siebert did the sound editing and the music. I forget how they said it. I think the implementation. Or the effects and editing. I think that's what they said. If you see these MS, that is his initials, as I understand it, and he made all these patches custom. These are not stock on the MT32. They're custom patches that he would have had to make, and I'll show you how complex this is. So I'm going to let's load the Airlock Sound. Now I'm going to play it. That's the Airlock Sound he programmed. I think it's here, maybe. One of these keys. I'm not sure which key it's on. But this is really, really complex because if you can see, you have to enter number values to edit any of the controls, and I'll show you how clunky it is. So let's say I turn off these oscillators, if you know anything about synthesis. Didn't change anything. Why? Because I have to resend the information back to the synth again to make the change. There you go. So these are custom sound effects. No one ever finished Codename Iceman. I don't know who said that, but yeah. These are all effects that Mark built or, synthesized with the hardware. And I don't know what software he was using. I would like to ask him what he was using, but I would bet he was probably using Atari software. There was the best quote-unquote librarian software was for the Atari ST, and it's just not a machine that I have easy access to, so who knows. Let's try a few more sounds. Pretty cool.
Space Quest 4 Falling from the Nest, Michael Darkwolf says. That
That's probably what it was,
imagining.
Right? So there's an explosion. And Julie and I were going through some of these sounds last night, I think.
Yep, saying, you know what, I don't think
Pretty
the
cool.
laser firing sound is going to work for the Crimson Diamond.
No.
And so on. Just going through each one and saying yes, no, maybe.
So let's skip ahead now. So that's exactly what that sound is. Now you can see here, Ice Rain electric piano. And these are probably the sounds he used to actually do the score. But most of these what Mark did, he made a lot of sound effects. So I would argue that his job was probably a lot more difficult, making sounds all the time, because that would have just taken, this would have been very, very time consuming. And, making a sound from scratch in this box is really clunky. Just about every other synthesizer ever is better. So yeah, we're gonna add a laser gun to Crimson Diamond because it kind
Yeah,
of
no
fits.
spoilers, but yeah, there's an epilogue where it's the far future.
It's DLC. DLC.
Yeah, it's for the Space Quest fans, right? It's something that I know people like Space Quest, so we're gonna need a section like
UFOs, all kinds of
that.
stuff. So let's take one more before I go to the big, huge database. And we were looking through here. So the first one that comes up is also a Lorabo game, but the Lorabo game we're looking for is CB, Colonel's Bequest. These are the actual sounds from the Colonel's Bequest. And look, it says, sure enough, music by Ken Allen. He had a banjo sound he composed. There's a thunder. He used Mark's sound.
The deluxe tax has a really good idea actually on how to fit those Space Quest sounds into Crimson Diamond. Just have one of those like a radio drama, a radio play that people are listening to that is like a sci-fi radio play.
Did they have a lot of that in 1914?
That's a good question.
Was radio super common then? I don't think so. I think you only had the wax cylinder. You might have had, I don't know if you had anything like vinyl records yet. I think you just had the wax cylinder, the Victrola, or the whatever they called it. There was a few different names that they called it. I think that's all. But here's some sounds from the Colonel's Bequest.
Oh, Skippy! Man, good to see you, buddy.
By Pigeon. Let's see, what else? So there's a crocodile sound. And you can see, these aren't super stupidly realistic sounds. They're like trying to sound like what they are.
Okay, so every key is a different sound effect right now.
No, every key is actually the same.
Oh, so can you play like Smoke on Water and Crocodiles or something?
You could. Sounds
nice.
really bad. And even there's if you guys know this game, there's a few ragtime piano songs, right? And it's funny because looking at this bank, there is no actual just regular piano. They only have the electric piano. But I think this is probably what they used. So there you go. And somebody says, NHB 93 says radio dramas started to be a thing in the 1930s. Yeah, I think that was a little early for them. But
and
anyway,
that song you were playing, what was it called, Dan?
That's called The Maple Leaf Rag.
And I want it so bad.
By a composer named Scott Joplin. And oddly enough, I always thought he was Canadian because The Maple Leaf Rag was kind of like one of the more famous pieces he wrote. He also did... what is it? The Entertainer. I can't really play that song. Yep. Nice. Yeah, I wish I could take Joplin requests, Deluxe Tux. My bragtime skills have faded. They were once mediocre, but now they've faded to not good.
Why were they mediocre?
I was never really that great of a reader. I read music decently, but I'm not like a classical style reader. And believe it or not, ragtime is heavily favored by classical musicians. For whatever reason, they respect ragtime, but a lot of them don't have a lot of respect for jazz, although that's changed over the years, thank God. Ragtime is kind of like considered like classical music to some classical musicians, and it's really the precursor of jazz music. So Scott Joplin was alive in the late 1800s. I think he passed away, I'm not exactly sure, early 1900s. And I'm trying to remember when The Joplin. So Deluxe Tux. What year was Maple Leaf Rag? Was it 1895 or 1899 or something like that? It was quite a few years ago. But anyway, that this style of music still would have been very popular in 1914, 1915 because, first of all, the Victrola, not a lot of people had it. Two, it was because it was expensive. And two, what people would have had is potentially pianos. So you would have had people learning piano music, one, or they had player pianos. So the music on the piano roll would play back ragtime, or it was kind of like your radio in the house at the time because, like they said, um, radio wasn't really kind of such a thing until later, right? The Leisure Suit Larry theme is also sort of ragtime. Yeah, so I think he was going for more lounge jazz. That's Al Lowe. And if you know much about Al Lowe, so let's back up a little bit because Al Lowe was one of the big proponents of the Roland MT32. Al Lowe is selling him short. He's a game designer that created Leisure Suit Larry. That's selling him very short, but to keep it short enough. He created the Leisure Suit Larry series, and he was also a jazz musician and composer, and he wrote the original theme to Leisure Suit Larry. Now, the cool thing about him is he still lives in the Seattle area, greater Seattle area, and he still, as far as I know, runs a big band. So he still like performs. I mean, I don't know if they perform live or it's more of a rehearsal band, but that's one of my goals in life is to play music with Al Lowe, specifically jazz. I actually studied jazz for a lot of years and I still play it occasionally. Although at the moment I'm not playing any shows live other than right here. And hopefully that'll change. Yeah, Al Lowe did music in Donald Duck's
He was a
Playground.
music teacher. He was a music teacher too, Michael Darkwolf says, which is true.
He was a music teacher. Yeah, that was before he was a game designer, I think, right?
Yes, yep.
And for whatever
Do you
reason...
know any Leisure Suit Larry? Can you play it on the Space Lasers?
I don't think I know any Leisure Suit Larry.
Or
like
the Whippoorwills?
Well, the Whippoorwills. You want to hear the Whippoorwills? What they
love
sound
the
like?
Whippoorwills.
Let's hear that.
I love the sound of them, but I'm pretty sure it's like not a Northern Ontario bird, so we can't do them. So good.
Well, you know, it says whippoorwill. Does that because whippoorwill's what, a southern bird?
I'm almost certain that it is.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, there's actually a funny story about they used to, well, I think they still do, put bird call sounds over golf course broadcasts to sort of give it more like natural sounding.
Oh, that's
hilarious.
hilarious.
But there were some times when they used birds that wouldn't have been in that region, and they actually had like birders, like bird watchers, would call in or write in and say, those birds that you played on that broadcast, they wouldn't have been in that area at that time, etc. So.
And what year was this?
Oh, I don't know. It's just some golf tournament.
So they've had trolls around forever. Internet trolls before the internet was even around. They already
accuracy.
Had these
I would have said the same thing. So if you're not going to hear a whippoorwill probably in the Crimson Diamond, because I wouldn't want to, bother anybody. You'd say, you know what, that's a southern bird, and it would never have been in Northern Ontario.
Do you know what? So. I would bother people because I would say, you know what, I'm impressed that you noticed that. As a game designer, I would throw crap in there like that. But hey, it's not my game. It's Julia's game. I'm making noise for the game. That's my job.
Making noise.
And let me stick to my job.
Skippy has the whippoorwill song. The whippoorwills, whippers in the wind. You know that one, Dan?
No, I don't know that song.
It's like a Looney Tunes thing.
Oh, is it?
Oh, the Whippoorwill, Deluxe Tux says, it can be found east central Saskatchewan to central Nova Scotia, and in Ontario. Interesting. Wow. They breed as far north as the shore of Lake Superior, which is around where the Crimson Diamond is set. So that might actually work. Can you play Sean Paul's Temperature in Whippoorwills?
Temperature is it doesn't really play so well without a vocalist, but you could try it. It's not going to sound like anything.
Well, that's good because we don't want to get copyright struck. Oh. Just use your imagination.
You really have to use your imagination. You have to use your imagination for that one. Oh, God.
What is good instrumentally? Like, what is a good Sean Paul song instrumentally that you would
well, that could work maybe, but that's a lot of dance hall, and without going too far into dance hall, a lot of it's based on like rhythm. So the rhythm is kind of the most important thing, and single chords or simple chords. But if you did something like Bustatoon says, I've never seen that editor UI. Yeah, it's bizarre. So anyway, this is just for the banks. So I'll show you guys the database now. The database is like the large every sound possible loaded in, and this is huge. And
Oh
this
my
is
gosh.
another hookup from Brandon Bloom. I'm not sure where it came from. It might have come from the old Quest Studios website, but this basically has I'm sure nearly every sound, if you can see this flying through, nearly every sound that was ever done for a Sierra game, certainly that they were able to port out of it.
How many you figure?
I don't even know. It's a lot, a couple thousand, maybe over 1,000.
Well, we got to the CLs as far as I recall.
So here's the very first one, and there's what? How many are there on each page in 5 rows? And that's probably what, 20 sounds times 5. So there's 100 sounds right there, ish. Or is my counting bad? There's around 100 sounds just right here. So yeah, there's there's a lot. There's thousands. Yeah. Roberta's like, oh my God. Where's Brandon finding this stuff? I think he's probably been on it for a long, long time. He's been doing music he's the composer. I should mention his background. He's the composer for a game called Mage's Initiation. He's also the composer for a game called, what's it called? What's the new game? Summer Days, Hero U Summer Days.
Mm-hmm.
Will, dude, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you.
So if anybody doesn't
awesome.
know, Will is the composer and remasterer and remaker of the audio for the Monkey Island remakes. And he used the MT32, the poor guy. And I won't give away all of it, but I'm a huge fan, and that's like selling his resume extremely short. I know he's done composition on the Call of Duty games. And Will, I'll go through your resume at a later time, but dude, thank you for being here. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Summer Days at Hero U. That's the name. Thank you, Roberta. And Roberta is I don't even know what your official title is. You're kind of the do-everything person at Trans-Solar Games. And she's also, I think, how I met Julia, which is awesome. So it's always publicist Coal Monkey. Yes, it's awesome. It's awesome that she's put us together so many months ago, and we've obviously enjoyed, working on all this stuff. So now let me show you the process of finding some of these sounds, right? So this is what I'm looking at when I go through here. I'm just like random sounds. Like some of these things sound cool. There's just a random sound, and you can kind of see.
What's it called?
What is this? Electric organ something? Electric organ 4. So I just go through and essentially just pick random sounds. So let's see. And obviously, when I see something that says like this, FR horn 1 or something like that, it's obviously something that's not going to help with the sound effects of the game, but it might help do music. But to look through all of these sounds and pick all the sounds, oh my God, it would take longer than it's going to take to finish this game. So obviously I'm not going to do that anyway, but I'll go through and find some interesting sounds. Let's see, fly swat. I assume that's a fly swatting sound. Oh,
really?
I mean, I don't know. It probably was in a big way back in 1988, 89, when these guys were programming it. This is kind of the best. This was the cream of the crop at the time. People didn't really have anything better. Like even
the cream
this
of the crop of fly swatting sounds.
Well, I don't know. Like in the look of the
we swatted a lot of flies.
So what did Deluxe Tuck said? I like the look of the funk bass. So let's see this. Where is the funk bass? Funk bass. All right, let's hear what it sounds like.
I could have sworn there was a game with a fly swatter that was like a Windows game. Perfect.
Anybody know that song?
Oh, Bilkun says that the fly swatter was used somewhere in SQ3 but can't remember where. That's an impressive level of knowledge.
Nice.
Oh yes, Skippy said Mario Paint had a solid fly swatting sound. That's what I'm thinking
Yep,
of.
and Will identified correctly. Birdland is the song by Joe Zawanu. So these are kind of cool. But you can kind of hear they sound similar, right? Oh, that's different.
Yes, Pozo Grabbins also said Birdland.
Anybody know that one? That's real going into actual funk. So these are cool sounds. Just, stuff I'm not probably going to end up using for something like TCD, the Crimson Diamond, which is what we're doing here. If anybody's just joined us, we're just making sound effects for Julia's game, the Crimson Diamond, which is based off of the sound of 1989-ish PC games.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't nobody. Nice job, Will. That's it. So there's an interesting sound. And you get kind of everything in between. Oh, this is a good one. This is one we wrote down from yesterday. Game show.
Yep.
I thought it sounded like Wheel of Fortune, which I thought was kind of cool. And each of these little numbers here, I don't know how well everybody can see. If you're on mobile, it might be tough. But there's a 1, 2, 3, and a 4. And these are oscillators. And oscillators, the simple way of thinking of them is they're the things that generate sound in a synthesizer. So they could be from a lot of sources. I don't want to get too deep into it because it's really kind of nerdy and complex, and I don't know it well enough anyway. So let's see what just one oscillator sounds like. Okay, so that's like some kind of applause or something, I think. That's another type of applause that they stacked on top of each other. And then when you stack the two of them and they process this way, that's what they sound like. Now let's listen to this one. Now if you listen to this, it sounds like, to me it sounds like a harp. Now they programmed it to just be one note, but when you put it together with the applause, it sounds like you're playing Wheel of Fortune and you got a few letters right.
Okay, I hear it now.
You hear it now? Now what's the last sound? There's actually a bird noise in there for some reason. Let's see what this sounds like together. I don't know. I guess what they thought sounded good because it's hard to make sounds on something like this. John Zay. Hello from Gabriel of Sedona. Now, John Zay is a long-time friend of mine, and he says Gabriel of Sedona. We actually stayed with a cult when we were on tour in 2007, I think. But that's another interesting story. We actually, to be honest, we were only there for a night, but we had a great time. It'll be another story, another stream. So what's up?
You'll tell us all about it on another stream, and we're going to join the cult to say we all had a great night.
If you Google that guy's name, there's a whole 2020 special on him. It's pretty crazy.
Did you get to stay for free at least? Or?
No. I'm sure it was expensive.
Oh.
So I just like playing through these sounds because you can just do some like really cool stuff with some of this stuff. Like here's a Japanese kind of sound.
Yeah, I know if you just use the black keys, it sounds oriental.
Well, it gives you the pentatonic scale, which is a 5-note scale that's commonly used in Asian music. But it's not, that's really oversimplifying Asian music, I would think.
Thank you, Dan. Yes, it is.
Drastically oversimplifying. Let's see if we can find something. So this, if you know anything about the MT32 and the family that it comes from, it was in a family of keyboards that were known as linear architecture or LA synthesis. The daddy of that synthesis was the D50. So there's a lot of patches in here labeled D50. And they're just not as good, but they're still pretty cool, some of them. Oh, that's pretty cool now.
I know what you want to play. I knew it. That's your go-to. I could tell just from the sound.
It just got so many good chords.
Mm-hmm.
So many nice chords, polychords. This.
But the cool thing also about the sound effects is that they might be called something, but then I'll listen to it and Dan won't have told me the name of it, and I'll say, "Oh, that sounds like this kind of thing," and he'll say, "Oh, it's actually labeled this." And because the sounds are kind of like they're never going to be like bang on sounds, so sometimes when I interpret it with my ear, I'm like, okay, well that could work here, and it's a sound for something completely different. So it's kind of cool that way too.
Right. So that's because these sounds are kind of ambiguous. It kind of
Yeah.
works in our advantage, right?
Yep.
So instead of just being, door buzzer,
Tubular bells and door buzzer.
it could be something else. Playing around with these instruments is writing side A of tubular bell. See, there's some quality music knowledge in this chat right now, and it has nothing to do with me. So I'm glad about that. Now I don't know what that is, but that sounded cool. Does it work? Does it work in your game? Probably not. Do you have any NASCAR cars flying by or airplanes?
I thought it sounded like waves or something.
Oh, okay. Well, is that a sound? Now, we're going to be very careful about not revealing any spoilers. Is that a sound that might be of use in the game?
Well, there is a NASCAR race later on in the game. Like in Chapter 6, there's a NASCAR race. So.
Yeah. Sam Tacky says it's all about the imagination. Yeah, I mean, that's what music is anyway, right? We're communicating without words. That's the whole deal.
Bill Kuhn says there are Sven Groot has Let's Play videos, which have the Roland MT32 playing there. And what kind of games did he play, Bill?
Yeah, we want to know.
The LPs.
Now check this out. This is Explode. There's, 12 or so sounds with Explode. Let's hear them. Now, interesting. That's some kind of clapping. That's pretty cool when you get down in the lower.
Sounds like thunder.
And if you've played the demo, there is an explosion somewhere in the demo. So that's not
somewhere in the demo.
Not giving away too much, but if you play the demo, you'll at some point hear or see an explosion or both.
Yeah, and if you get to it, the current explosion sound in the demo is a sound I made on online on something called some kind of BitTune browser app thing. And I thought it was pretty good. But yeah, I mean, we're going to be probably swapping out a lot of my stuff with the actual Roland MT32 stuff.
The idea is to get the best sounding thing we can, but also kind of be authentic. So we're taking some liberties here and there, but for the most part, we want it to be authentic. So there's another explosion. And this says Explode MS, so it's very likely that Mark Siebert programmed that at some point. CB, who did we decide that was? Cliff? Was that
Chris... No, CB.
CB.
Well, it's Colonel's Bequest, but I don't know if it was a musician.
Yeah, it could be. There's a pretty cool.
Yeah, I feel like that sounds like in the intro they have a thunder in the background.
And what we could do too is we can stack a few of these on top of each other, and it might sound better. That's something that sound designers, if you guys ever have any interest in like true sound design, I'm not like a heavy sound designer. I'm the music side. That's always been my specialty. Chris Breen, yeah, I'm not too sure, Eden Wraith. The sound design thing is crazy. There's tutorial videos showing somebody making just one explosion sound that lasts, 5-6 seconds. I think it's Chris Brayman. I think that's right. The explosion sound lasts 5-6 seconds, and there's layers. There might be 20 or 30 layers of different sounds stacked on top of each other to get, one little explosion or one little laser gun sound, and then they'll have to vary it for if it's a film or if it's a game. They'll have to vary it a whole ton of ways, and that's why there's these huge budgets for. Well, I shouldn't say huge budgets. There is budgets for sound designers, and they spend a lot of time and effort, especially in AAA games and movies, on that stuff because it's important. Like walking, you want to hear footsteps of somebody walking. You really don't want to hear the same footstep. And speaking of footsteps, let's see if we can find a footstep in here. Is there anything that says?
The same with martial arts movies. If it's all the same punch sound, it ends up sounding really super hokey.
They kind of describe it as like a machine gun sound because it's just like the same thing over and over again, which is really gets annoying. It's not too bad. But it would get annoying if you just set these together. Yeah, so if Eden Wraith, if you've watched any of the Star Wars stuff on how they made sounds, definitely, definitely, they spent a lot of time and a lot of effort. That's, Skywalker Sound is a big, big sound design, stage, everything. They're kind of everything. And I think, I don't know, but I think the LucasArts beginnings, I think they were near or in a building right near the Skywalker Sound area. I could be wrong about that, but I know that Maniac Mansion was created. At one point, they were at the Skywalker Ranch doing the games somewhere.
Hmm.
Where and what house, I don't know, but they were there somewhere. So let's see. There's another footsteps.
Yeah, Michael Darkwolf was saying that it's obviously Space Quest 3 with the Terminator robot with the footsteps.
Right.
That would have been one.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, and I don't actually know where they are, but here's some other cool ones that I was looking at. There's fire.
The sound of fire.
Now, interestingly enough, that to me sounds like you could potentially use that for water.
Or NASCAR.
So, are we making a Mario Andretti simulator, a NASCAR adventure game? Now, this is another cool sound. It's labeled Fire Dart, and I think that this is probably some Quest for Glory sounds. Don't know which game, Quest for Glory 1, Quest for Glory 2, one of those. I think they left MT32 support in for Quest for Glory 3, but by that time, General Midi would have sounded better. Let me look.
And Bill Kuhn says Ben Burt was the sound designer for Star Wars 1 to 6 and Indiana Jones. Documentary segments on Lucasfilm sound design are really neat, and I believe. Oh, that's beautiful. Is that in wrapping?
No, it's just in like a comic book bag. I think my buddy Kevin sent me this.
Sweet.
And he's always got nice stuff, and he takes care of it well. So yeah, this supports the MT32, but it also supports General Midi. So basically, you're not going to get as good of a soundtrack using the MT32 on Quest for Glory 3 as you would on Quest for Glory 2, which doesn't use General Midi because it hadn't been invented yet. And even on this game, this is Quest for Glory 2, which is, this did not support General Midi, obviously, because it wasn't released. It was released in 1990, and the General Midi standard didn't start till 1991. So you missed it by a year. Here's an interesting one. This is Quest for Glory 1, but this is the remake version. This is not the original Heroes Quest, which was the original title. They had to change it because they thought there was copyright. Anyway, this game supports General Midi and probably even sounds maybe better using General Midi and the digital audio that they later added. But it's also updated. It's a remake, so they changed the graphics to 256 color VGA instead of 16 color EGA. My favorite, this is actually probably one of my favorite games of all time. Julia disagrees with me on this being the superior version, and I think the Coles also disagree. I'm pretty sure they prefer the original version to this one. Roberta can probably answer that. Roberta can probably answer
16 colors!
But I want to slightly change directions again and just show you what the General Midi sound versus MT32 sounded like specifically with this game.
EGA is better.
Oh.
Right, guys?
Well, it is for your game for certain. But there was a second Laura Bow game that she was in VGA, right?
Yes, and it was very nice, and it had a really good art direction. It was very Art Deco, which I love. So I can't really complain too much, but they never did a VGA remake of Colonel's Bequest, and for that I'm grateful.
They didn't. So this is Quest for Glory 1, the remake using General Midi. So this will give you, yes, the Dagger of Amun-Ra. So this is going to give you an experience of what General Midi is versus MT32 sounds. Oh, no, this is MT32. Oh, apparently I used the MT32, so I lied. You're going to get an example of MT32 and digital audio because this used both. And I don't know about you guys, but just that's like, that does it for me. That made,
Yep.
I didn't care what came after that. If I could hear that intro and see that, that was it. So let me continue. Doesn't it, Hannah? Good Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Now here you're actually hearing a little bit of both. You're hearing some digital sound. Oh, hold on. Before I go too much further. Okay, so the Coles argue. In case I'm not surprised they argue. They're married for many years. That's what happens to married couples. I wouldn't know anything about that. The Coles argue. Corey liked the VGA. Lori preferred the EGA. So there you go. Interesting. Very
Interesting.
interesting. And I'll say this: the EGA is also great. There's nothing wrong with it. Certainly, I just preferred this one because I don't know. I'm lazy. I don't know. And I can click around. I don't have to type as much. But I played both of them. So I don't remember what point I got this one, but I played both of them. This is great. Oh, and let me pause again. Who did the music for this game? Quiz. I wonder if it's on the back and I can show it. Probably not. Anybody know who did the music for this one? A famous composer at Sierra, famous sound, whatever. No? Nobody? What does this say? Fans of MST3K are still having Mike versus Joel debates to this very day. See, that's what it is. And Jen said, I like the look of VGA, but the gameplay of EGA. Yeah, interesting. Yes, Eden Wraith, that's correct. Mark Siebert did Hero's Quest. Did he also, but I believe he also did this game as well. Am I wrong about that? I better look. Oh, shooting flame darts at things now.
By accident. Gotta be careful with those.
Let's see. He may not even be credited in this. Oh, credits. Well, let's see. Music director, Mark Siebert. Sound effects, Aubrey Hodges, and composer Mark Siebert. Yep, so he was. He was not only the composer, but the director. So I guess Aubrey Hodges helped out with some of the programming of the sounds in this game. And that's awesome. And he's still another guy you should check out if you don't know about him. Yep, Mark and Aubrey. Awesome. So let's play this. This is fantastic music, by the way, to me.
Yep.
And look at that fire. Come on, Julia. You can't tell me that animation for the fire wasn't pretty cool. That's pretty cool, man. Come on. With the reflection on the ground.
It's nice. Animation is nice. I'll give you that.
So now let me pause that. The sound that you just heard is digital audio, which means it's just recorded sound. You can use anything. If you have the ability to use digital audio, you can record any sound you want. I could record myself playing real piano, but for 1989, that wasn't really so much of a thing on the PC at the time. So a lot of the sound effects you're hearing are not coming from the MT32. This is definitely MT32. And then you'll hear the mixture. My vote for one for... So you can definitely hear the digital audio there, and it's pretty cool. And at the time, of course, it was awesome. Did you see
if there was going to be one poorly compressed voice line in the Crimson Diamond, it would probably be a gasp, like they had that gasp in Dagger on Ra when you find something. That kind of noise.
You can do it, and you know the interesting thing, if you know anything about, Julie and I were talking about this last night, right? So we were talking about a little bit of the history of how music developed on game consoles. And it starts out with beepy noises like the PC speaker. If you go all the way back, Magnavox Odyssey was, I think, the earliest one. And then you go through Nintendo, NES, whatever, and you get up to what were we talking about? Super Nintendo, I think, or Super Nintendo,
Oh,
PS1, that era, right
yeah.
in there somewhere. So Super Nintendo actually had the ability to play back sampled sounds. So that's why, and even the Nintendo did, but it was very, very limited, and the space was very limited. And even on Super Nintendo, the space was extremely limited. So this is a lot of times what happened with the sound or the music is that they just didn't have the space to work with. We can do it. Like we have the luxury of being able to, um, do kind of whatever we want now. But a lot of times the space was a big thing. Like it just didn't fit on this many discs. It didn't fit on this. It didn't fit on that. So anyway, that was the deal with that. Let's see. After a while in LB2, seemed pretty numbed about seeing another dead body because yeah, interesting. So I
It
never
got
actually
old
played it.
fast.
I never actually played that one. I gotta play the. Excuse me.
It's
I gotta
oh, the
play the two of
music
them.
is so good. It's one of my favorite soundtracks. I'm pretty sure. And who did we say did that one?
Good question. I don't know
It's
who did the
grand.
music on
There's
that.
so many good pieces in that one.
But that's all mostly either general MIDI or later they did a CD version, right?
Hmm.
Was it a fully voiced CD version? I don't know. I don't know too much about
There
that one.
did there was a fully voiced version, yeah. I played a non-voiced version though. That's
Okay,
when I
cool.
had the disc one.
Yeah, and it's Eden Wraith is talking about how you had to take shortcuts to save space, and that's
Oh
really what they
yeah.
had to do. You had to compress things, and so that's how you got in Super Nintendo. You got these sounds that sounded real because they were real sounds. Potentially somebody could have even played and recorded it, but then they were compressed and compressed and compressed super as much as they could be, and that's kind of why they sounded the way they sounded. And then they used this like kind of MIDI echo sound. There's a really good podcast called the Music Production Podcast that my friend Brian Funk runs, and he actually did an interview with a guy called William Cage. And I don't know if you know about William Cage, but he's like he's like a huge proponent of Super Nintendo style and music, and he's actually created a whole video game engine that you can use for free and make your own games on um, on completely on the web, which is pretty cool. And I think it's called the Six Engine. I think it's out now. It's similar, like his style of game that he loves is RPGs, and it's got the Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy kind of vibe to it, which is great. And supposedly, you can build your own game pretty fast, pretty easy. But he did a lot of music, and he was at one point selling a lot of music. Either way, he actually sent me something today that asked me to test something, so that's pretty cool.
Cool.
And nice guy, and there's a lot of good information on Super Nintendo music and synthesis and how it works on that podcast episode, music production podcast with Brian Funk, episode William Cage. So that's pretty cool. So I think that's pretty much what I was hoping to show you guys today. And on Podbean, I think it's on Podbean. I know he's pretty much Brian's on pretty much every platform. Music production podcast.
Michael Darkwolf says that he feels bad that Space Quest 5 never got voiceovers. It was intended but abandoned.
Interesting. I wonder if it was a budget
Hmm.
thing.
Oh, hey, Retrograde Tom. Thanks for coming by. Thanks,
Looking forward to the
thanks.
Crimson Diamond. Sweet. Yeah. And if you really want to do more research on the music production podcast, I did an episode with Brian, but it was right at the beginning of this chaos. So my career has kind of shifted in the last month, as I think a lot of ours has, musicians especially, because performing musicians, I should say, especially because we're not able to perform at the moment. So we did a cool episode on that too. So if you want to research that, I was on there as well. But William Cage is the cool one with the Super Nintendo music that I really enjoyed. So yeah, but that's about what we wanted to show you. Before we go though, we have a little bit of a preview.
Yes, and we need to ask an opinion of you guys.
Okay, so whoops. We're gonna do another one of these, which is
Yes.
the making the Crimson Diamond live, painting pixels with Julius. So it'll be an art stream.
There'll be an art
And
stream, and there's two ideas of what I'm thinking about doing next, and we'll show you two different samples of what we're thinking, and you guys can kind of weigh in. I'll probably put a poll up on Twitter and see how people are, which way they want me to go with it for the next one. Of course, I could probably do both eventually, but just what I should do next.
here is one idea, and this is
Yeah.
showing room construction.
Yep.
And what's the resolution of this?
320 by 200.
320
pixels.
by 200.
Yep. And because I did my first art stream was sort of exteriors and talking about how to build sort of an outdoor scene and like what kind of considerations you have to make when you're building it, like depth, like that illusion of depth and sun and light and shadow, all that. This one is kind of a natural progression. This is the interior rooms are kind of how I started the project to begin with, which is just doing rooms. I started making little pixel art rooms, and so that's one we could do next, or there's another possibility.
The other possibility is here. Whoops. Sorry.
Oh, thanks, Roberta. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I had fun putting that together.
Let me fix this scaling. What is going on here? Let's just hide that for now.
Yeah, so this is the other option. This is I made these a while ago, actually, because I played Yatsuko Shaw's The Consuming Shadow, which is sort of like a roguelike Cthulhu-based game that is really cool and a lot of fun to play. And I was so inspired to create some EGA demakes of his screens, of some of the screenshots.
Yes, and let's give another.
And so my question is I could either go with doing sort of interiors of Crimson Diamond, like how I would go about doing that, or I could take some suggestions for games nowadays, like past games, like really recent games, and how you guys would want to see me approach doing an EGA demake of just about any game that's around nowadays. That was the other option.
Yeah. I mean, my vote, I know what my vote is, but I don't care. QFG 5 remake? Or demake?
It would,
yes.
Yeah, it would. What it would be was like it wouldn't look like the Quest for Glory 1 stuff. It would be me trying to make Quest for Glory 5 look good in the same kind of graphical style in 3D, but just taking a screenshot of that and trying to make it look legible and like a good game in EGA. Like I wouldn't be like rebuilding something completely from scratch using 2D versus 3D. I would basically be taking screenshots and trying to make them look as the example that Dan's showing now. I'm taking a screenshot and trying to make it as EGA as possible and as close to the original intent as possible.
Yeah, either sound interesting. They like it all, do both. I like the demakes from my perspective. I just think it's so cool that you could I mean, look at this one. Even with the water cooler, like the water cooler looks totally different. The door looks totally different, but it's all of a sudden like, wow, this is really beautiful. And how you interpreted, because it's not just like you're taking Photoshop and throwing a filter over it that says, hey,
right.
Make this into EGA. Because look, the mirror is upside down, and you have to make the font bigger to be readable, I'm sure.
Yeah, right? There's a lot of things to think about when doing this. It's a matter of like taking I want to keep it as close to what the developer intended as possible by just shifting it a little bit, and then with doing maybe one screen or two, you kind of your brain fills in the rest about what that would actually, how that would look, how that would play, especially if it's a game people are familiar with.
Yeah, pretty cool, right?
So we've got some suggestions. Quest for Glory 5. People, are interested in seeing. But again, like I said, it would be still a 3D, but an EGA 3D, which would be a complete other challenge.
Oh yeah, because Quest for Glory 5 is 3D.
It is.
Holy cow! I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be just completely making new art. It would just be me doing what you see here, which is as close to possible as what they had. Conquest of Longbow, Gabriel Knight 3.
Did you see what Sam Taki said? Demake the position of the gun. The gun is questionable.
As close to the original intent as possible.
I think it's more questionable in VGA, to be honest.
Enough said.
Well, we didn't make this game. Julia didn't make this game. She just
No, but it's a really fun game. And
unmade it.
Yahtzee Croshaw is a really big inspiration of mine because he's another solo game dev. He just did 12 indie games in just about 12 months
Oh my god.
as an exercise for himself, which is
Wow.
really cool. He started off in Adventure Game Studio, which is the same engine that I'm using to build the Crimson Diamond. He made a bunch of point and click adventure games and one text parser game. And so I played and enjoyed those quite a bit. And so that's one of the reasons why I did that. I'm a big fan of his work, and yeah, I thought it would be fun.
That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. I like the demakes for me, but
Yeah,
I think
it's
you could take almost any game, right, and demake it. You could take Assassin's Creed 2 and demake it if you wanted to in EGA.
Yeah.
But it would be difficult and time consuming. I mean, how long does something like that take?
This I don't think it took me that long because it's pretty 2D. This stuff's pretty 2D, but there's always the adjusting and trying to figure out exactly how I want that lighting effect to happen because I can't just do a blur out at the edges for the lighting effect. I actually had to go in and build exactly how I wanted that to look.
So you weren't using like Blender or Unity or something to make these?
No. Thank you, Sam. Thanks. I'm glad you like it. I have a lot of fun making these things. So it's just a fun kind of imaginative exercise. And when I'm making the art streams, I always try to make myself say, oh, I could try to do some art that I could actually use in my game. But it just doesn't happen that way because I wanted to show you guys the fun stuff and building stuff. And I'm not really in the art asset phase of my development right now. So it's not something useful. So I just want it to be fun and show you guys something that you'd like to see.
Yeah. I like it. So I don't know what the vote is officially, but we'll put it on Twitter too, right? You'll put it on your
Twitter.
of
course. Yeah.
And see what's up. In some ways, I actually like your artwork better. Look at that pentagram book. Pentagram book you got is slick. The bullets are cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not even just a matter of doing EGA like a direct conversion. It's also graphic design and where you want the eye to be and just information. Like the way he does the ammo in that screen, I felt wasn't really to me showing the information as well as I'd like it to. So I think I did adjust that slightly too. Because I did have some graphic design. Graphic design is different from illustration. Illustration is like drawing stuff like people and plants and trees, and graphic design is an organization of information. And so what we learned was how to organize, not necessarily on a screen, but on a page, like designing a pamphlet or a poster or a flyer, and how to make the information, the hierarchy of information. You want certain things, the most important thing, obviously, to be the most obvious, and then you kind of lead the eye around in sort of steps. And I found that course really helped me when I'm making art for the game and just about anything else. When I design my own business cards, when I design my own postcards, these are like lessons that I've taken from my courses in college that I still use to this day. Amiga Bill says, Dana Policar, didn't know you were on Twitch.
Amiga Bill is the man. If you guys, so there's the Amiga King, right? He's actually sort of local to me. But he has a great Twitch channel that if you haven't checked out, he does a lot of live streaming, and it's all Amiga all the time, which is awesome if you like Amiga. And if you don't like Amiga, you should watch it anyway because Bill's great, and his production is fantastic. So I take a lot of influence from watching him and seeing what he's doing.
Yeah, you were saying last night, Dan, that the Amiga wasn't really big in the States, and I don't think it was that big in Canada either. It was bigger in Europe.
Yeah, it was. I would say it was bigger in Europe overall. It's for anybody who doesn't know, it's a computer system that kind of paralleled the PC, but it was. I think it first came out in 1985, 86, and it blew away the PC by miles. In fact, let me see if I mean, we're done, but let me show you. Let me show you a little bit example of what one of their release games.
And I would say that their color palette was more extensive than the color palette on the PC at the time. So that's kind of a cool thing too.
I got to plug in my video drive. Let's hope this works and doesn't kill my sound card. It might.
This is real drama, real life drama.
Now let's see. Yeah, so this is one of my favorite intros. Oh, it might not work. No.
Wow, Amiga Bill says the Amiga had 4,096 colors in 1985.
Right, and compared to 16 was ridiculous, and even compared to 256 later. What it didn't have was its own synthesizer chip. It had the ability to play digital sound, but it didn't like generate its own sounds. So you used something called mod music, which is a whole nother subject. I'm no expert on mod music, but it's kind of actually where I started. So it's actually at the time it was a better way to get like quality. It's similar in a way to what the Super Nintendo did, but you had a little bit more flexibility to make mod music, and it uses samples. But yeah, if you want to know about Amiga stuff, watch Amiga Bill's channel. That's the best way to do it. That's the best thing I can recommend. He demos not only like games, but he's demoing people making new games for the system. He's demoing new hardware for the systems. Most people, the 1200, the Amiga 1200 system is kind of the one they want. I actually have a 1200 and a 500. I think I have a 600 too. I have a lot. I have a lot of stuff in storage. I don't even know. Okay, now I'm going to show it. I think I got it. Let's see.
Amiga Bill says you have to hear the stuff people are getting out of the Paula chip these days. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, Paula is the name of the sound chip on the Amiga. They all have like names. Like there's Agnes, there's Denise, there's a bunch of chips, and they're responsible for various functions on the Amiga.
Oh, that's cool.
This is Defender of the Crown from 1986. This is the intro.
I couldn't believe this was 1986. This is crazy.
So EGA was just like kind of taking shape. And there you go, 1986 copyright.
Hey, Davor. Good to see you.
So this is what the Amiga was capable of, like out of the box, day one. Because I think this was a launch, one of the things they used to advertise the launch of this game. Unreal. It's glorious.
It is.
And this game is fantastic too, although people argue that the Commodore 64 is the best gameplay. Fantastic. 1986, so this predates any game using the MT32 and EGA, right? Well, not EGA, dithering in EGA. Yeah, a lot of people would have played this game on Commodore. Probably sold better on Commodore, too. Look at the fire.
Jim Sacha is the artist, Amiga Bill says. Okay. Jim Sachs, sorry, Jim Sachs. Jim Sachs.
Oops, let me move us out of the way.
Using Deluxe Paint.
Yeah, Deluxe Paint and Deluxe Paint 2 are I think the popular programs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Moonstrike Lily says it looks like mid-90s, and I totally agree.
Exactly. But it's not. It's very early. I think this is using the... you know what? That's an Amiga Bill question. I'm glad he's here.
Oh, Davor. Yeah, Amiga Bill said 4,096. And Bill Kuhn says Defender of the Crown rib roast.
I'm going to show you one more game that I have on here. And this is the Fairy Tale Adventure. This is probably my favorite music and one of the most amazing games. It's probably very difficult to play now. It also came out on the Sega Genesis, but this is the Amiga 1200 version emulated, but running the NTSC speed, because if you run it at PAL speed, it actually plays wrong. And even though the Amiga was more popular in Europe, this game was made by one guy in California, David Joyner. And so if he was in California, I assume he was not using a PAL Amiga, because you would have needed a step up transformer to even get the thing to run off of our power supply, because we use different power here. So watch this. This is unbelievable music and a huge, massive game. 1986. It's ridiculous.
My man Julian.
Yeah.
Hey, Ambrosine.
Now, you really don't want to play as Philip or Kevin because that means you just got Julian killed. So that's weird about this game. Yep, beautiful physical
That's
map.
not weird about that game. Obviously, Julian is the best, and you
Well-
would not want to continue.
Picardy third. Well, remember, this was composed by the developer. So he not only did the game, he programmed the whole game and the whole soundtrack, which is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
And it's a giant
I wouldn't
game.
do that now.
And what did they say? They love the game map. So let me show you.
Of course, Dan has the game map.
It's also fiendishly.
Oh no, Dan, you're gonna die.
Fiendishly difficult. No, I died on the Genesis playback, not on this one, thankfully. But that is this game, and if you look at some of the long plays or let's plays, guys will be like, "Oh my god, I died already!" immediately into the game. And sadly, do I have Shadow of the Beast? No, I don't have Shadow of the Beast. I know that's one of the top ones too. But the Genesis port of this game, to me, was not the best way to play it. It really kind of needs the mouse to me, and it also needs a few other things. But this is actually the release. This is the Amiga version.
Holy cow.
And this is one of the folio releases, so it looks like a record album.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And I think the map is, do I have the map? I think it's in here.
It looks so metal. That cover, holy cow.
Do I not have the map? I thought I had the map. Oh no, maybe I'm missing. Nope, there it is. I was pretty sure. There it is. So there's the map. And there was also an MS-DOS release of this game, but it's really not one you want to play compared to this. So there's the map if you can see it. Oh,
wow.
Let's switch to a view you can see maybe a little better. But that is the map. And it looks small, but this game is gigantic. So, oh yes. There's also, yes, Bill pointed out that there's a Amiga users, Westchester Amiga users group, and I've been dying to go to a meeting for over, I don't know, at least maybe a year, possibly 2 years, and I have not been able to get over there because it's a little far for me and tough with schedule, and obviously now they're not happening, but hopefully maybe we'll do something online again, and that'd be cool.
Dan, when was Fairy Tale Adventure done?
1987, I think. Yep, 1987. And it was done in California. And if you look at some of the artwork on here, it's hard to see. But this was actually, like, apparently the guys, David Joyner, there's a picture of him.
Oh man, what a rock star.
And if you look, there's some story he tells the story about the suit of armor in this thing that they made over a period of time, because I think they were playing D&D or something like that. And they did, like, all this, like, kind of, like, photography of, like Lord of the Rings style photography, but
that is so cool.
You know, this game has its flaws, but man, I love the soundtrack and I love the way it looked. I just thought it was one of the most beautiful games I'd seen. You know, oh, there's an online meeting. There you go, May 7th. Awesome. I would love to be a part of that. So that's our stream for today, and I think, good Lord, we went way over time, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Oh God. Oh well.
Not as bad as me though, so you're fine.
So I really enjoyed hanging out with you guys watching, and I really enjoyed hanging out with you, Julia. And I'm so glad we had a whole bunch of superstars come by and chat with us and hang out, and I'm flattered and honored. And I am Dan, this is Julia. I am the composer for and sound effects editor for the game, The Crimson Diamond, and Julia is everything else. She's the designer, the writer, the artist, the janitor. She's everything. You know, so we are working on this game daily, essentially. And what's the biggest challenge right now? Is it testing?
Yes, the testing takes forever, and it's actually I always tell people it's a double-edged sword because I get feedback and it's great because I can incorporate the feedback, make the game better, fix the bugs, etc. But that takes time, and then I have to test after all I've fixed everything or broken everything, and that takes ages too. Um, and so it's a matter of it's great I'm making the game better, but then I'm not building new parts of the game, and then it gets kind of frustrating. I'm in that frustration part now. I'm so close to being finished that my latest testing phase. I'm getting really antsy to start the new parts of the game.
And that's awesome. So yeah, if you guys want to download it, you can download the demo on Steam and twitch.io. And I think Roberta's been throwing some links in there. Thank you,
Yes, thanks so
Roberta.
much.
And you can also find us on Twitter, and I'm on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me, Dan the Band, on Twitter, Dan the Band NYC on Instagram. And I would say the Twitter is probably the better for now. And the crimsondiamond.com. You can also find most of the replays of these on Julia's YouTube channel. I'm hoping to post some highlights of these, but my video editing I'm not good at it. And I'll get good at it eventually, hopefully.
I'm not. I'm gonna continue to suck at that. I'm not gonna get better.
Thank you guys for joining us. Rick says, Dan, I'm one of your caffeine students. Nice. Awesome.
Cool.
So yeah, I do some little classes with some guys at an academy called Caffeine Academy, which used to be in person, but sadly we can't be in person right now, so we're there. Is that Eric? Is that EMT? DJ EMT? Is that Rick 3636? It's probably DJ EMT. I hope it is. Yeah, so thank you guys for watching. And yeah, the next one is going to be when?
Yeah, we could do next week maybe. I'll throw up that Twitter poll and we'll see.
I think we should do it next week. No, 8 p.m. Same time,
Yeah.
same channel.
Yeah, it's been working. I think. Yeah, why not? I'm like 20 minutes away from becoming a Twitch affiliate, so I should probably knock that one out at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see next week.
Yeah, Trolls would be awesome. Maybe we can get him on one that we can like just sit there and pick his brain the whole time and say, "Hey, what about this?"
Yeah, we're gonna
Here's
have to
what we're
schedule
thinking."
that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, game dev meetups are they're online. I actually had a great game audio. There was a great game audio meetup that's how I met Will, and it was awesome. I loved it. I love learning so much about it. So anyway, guys, that's all for us. 4-hour stream next time, Sam Tacky says. Yeah, maybe not. Believe it or not, despite being homebound, there's still a lot to take care of in the home that you're bound to. So I hope everybody stays safe and that they don't cut their hair until the end of this process. And they can walk into a barbershop so we all look like Eddie Van Halen from 1984. That's my goal, and I hope you guys' goal is similar. So enjoy, and I thank you guys for watching.
Thank you so much, you guys.
See you next time.